Hello there, wrestling fans. Welcome to another episode of the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I am your host, Joe the Panther the Third. And man, happy Monday, everybody, even though Garfield style. Monday. That's another Monday. But this is a big Monday for me. Today's guest works for a station that I pretty much got my every morning feed and desire to do what this man does. Let's give a warm Dudes at Ringside welcome to Josh Martinez of Z100. Welcome, Josh.
Appreciate you having me, man. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem, man. So, for my fans in the international base, if they're not familiar with you, and why would they not be? Introduce yourself.
I am the night host of the world famous Z100, quite literally the biggest radio station on the planet, and has been since before I was even born. And that's a fact. Z100 has a strong legacy, and I'm just the night host. You know, I tell everybody all the time, it's like I'm playing for the New York Yankees. You may not know every player on the Yankees, but you damn sure know the Yankees. So you may not know me, but you know my team. And you know what? That's good enough for me. And I get to pay my bills. So I'm the night host at Z100. I'm also the night host of 103.5 Kiss FM in Chicago. And then I'm also nationally syndicated in 40 different cities, from Jacksonville to Philadelphia to Anchorage, Alaska, all of Iowa, all that fun stuff.
Wow, that's awesome. So,
and I have a wrestling podcast, which is the reason why you found me to begin with.
Yes, you're a fellow podcaster. So let's go back. So what made you go into being on the radio and stuff like that? What was your inspirations?
Growing up, I always wanted to work for the WWE. I think a lot of us did, right? That's just what we always, not as a wrestler though. I always knew that I wasn't going to be a wrestler, but I wanted to be a manager. I wanted to be, a mean gene. I always wanted to do that. And then as I got older, I wanted to be an actor because I wanted to be an entertainer. I went to the College of Staten Island to major in drama, which was dumb. Why would you major in drama or theater? I'm in New York City. I can literally just start going to auditions. I don't need a degree to tell me that I'm good in acting. You're either good or you're not, right? So I dropped out. And at the time, I was obsessed with sports radio. And I would constantly hear a commercial for an 8-week program for TV and radio. And I was like, well, I want to be the first Puerto Rican on SportsCenter. And I got an internship offer to do music radio. And I grew up poor. And I was like, all right, well, this is an opportunity. I was always taught, don't give up on any opportunities. Take whatever you can get. So I was like, all right, I'll just try this music thing out. And it's been 15 years since I've been on the music side of radio. So it's been a dream of mine to be on Z100. And once I got into the radio industry, I realized that it was an even bigger deal to be on Z100. You know what I'm saying? To learn more about the legacy and learn more about the history behind it was really dope. So I kind of got into it because I wanted to be an entertainer. So the adult dream was Z100. The childhood dream is WWE or AEW now.
Yeah, and also Impact. Can't forget the Impacts and the NWAs. So
no, I love all those companies. However, even their people and their performers would say either AEW or WWE as their main goal.
I've talked to a lot of independent wrestlers. Actually, one of them, she's come on twice now. Formerly Riley Rocket. Now she's Roxy, former tag team. Oh, she would say shortest reigning tag team champion of NWA. But I still say a quarter's a quarter, even though it comes out two different ways. You can get it different ways. She still had those green tag team titles in her possession for a little bit of time. So, as a kid, when you watch wrestling, who were some of your favorites to watch?
I was obsessed with the Ultimate Warrior. Still to this day, I am. And I got an Ultimate Warrior bicep tattoo.
Oh, wow.
I must say that I'm obsessed with Ultimate Warrior, the character that was on TV. The man sucked. And I'm smart enough to say that. I don't, I was able to kind of pull those two apart as I got older. But no, Ultimate Warrior was the thing that I was obsessed with growing up, man. WrestleMania 6, I tell people all the time, WrestleMania 6 changed my life. Just seeing how big the stadium was, seeing two good guys for the first time kind of wrestle and have it be such a big time event, that blew my mind and made me fall in love with wrestling to the point where like I literally celebrate April 1st, 1990 as though it's a holiday for me personally, you know, with WrestleMania 6. That was the date. Um, I went to the Sky Dome for a Yankees Blue Jays game when SummerSlam was in Toronto, and I just kind of walked around and was like, I'm in the building of WrestleMania 6. I didn't give a shit that the Yankees lost in the bottom of the eighth inning. Well, they blew it in the bottom of the eighth inning. I was upset, but I was really more so like, I'm here in the Sky Dome. Ultimate Warrior growing up was like my everything. And then as I kind of got older, I was into kind of Shawn Michaels a little bit. And then The Rock really like blew me away. That was the dude that I was all in on, which is funny because, you know, when you're young, you gravitate towards certain people. And, you know, in the Attitude Era, I was fifth grade, sixth grade. So I was kind of going towards more of the heels than I was the baby faces. I never liked Stone Cold. I never liked him up until you get to a certain age and you become a certain type of fan where you see things differently and you respect what people did for the business. You respect promos differently, matches differently. You just your perception of wrestling changes over time. And I have so many like Austin t-shirts now, and I quote him all the time because he's just an icon and a legend. But at his peak, I was Rock over Austin every day of the week, twice on Sunday, to take a Stone Cold phrase.
There's a shirt that not many people have, Josh. I don't know if you got the DTA shirt when he came out back in the day. I did, and all the kids I went to CI high school, and I would wear that shirt, and they're like, "Okay, Joe, what the hell does DTA mean?" I'm like, "You don't know what that means?" And I'm like, "I'm that kid watching Raw, like the Attitude Era, and hanging out with these kids that think they're gangster." And they're like, "What DTA mean?" I'm like, "You don't know what that means?" They're like, "No." What's it mean? And I'm like, about it. I'm like, stupid me, wrestling fan. I'm like, you don't know what DTA means? Me don't trust anybody. And they're like awkward TikTok silence. And I'm just like, and then I would get, yeah.
I was never a fan. I was just always into The Rock. Kane was really cool to me from about 97 to like 2000 ish. And then I fell off the Kane bandwagon when he said "suck it" and he had like the
man.
I was like, I'm done with it. I was good on that. And now Kane, the politician, he sucks too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then but no, I just grew up loving wrestling, and then I you know, Randy Orton was like another one that I was just all in on. The moment he joined Evolution, all in on Randy Orton. And then as you get older and you start listening to podcasts, you start looking for different things because you have, for the first time ever, not only are people willingly talking about how we all know how wrestling works, but now instead of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, it's just outright like we're just talking about it openly. And with these wrestling podcasts that are super successful, and Conrad Thompson, for example, his entire network of podcasts allows you to kind of be in the know of certain things and be told certain things. And then you go out of your way and you watch that match that they talk about or that pay-per-view, and you have like a whole new appreciation for it because you know the backstory of the match or the storytelling or what it should have been or could have been. So for me, like the best example is like I said, my favorite match growing up, WrestleMania 6, Hogan Warrior to this day. I like Toronto Sky Dome, 67,678 people, April 1st, 1990. Like I remember all these little minor details of that entire friggin' event. But as I got older, I realized, you know, my favorite match became WrestleMania 25, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, their first one at Mania. But then listening to podcasts, you realize and you pick up on little nuances of Hell in a Cell, Bad Blood 97, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and just how incredible that match was, from the storytelling leading into the match, the storytelling during the match, the absolute beating that Shawn Michaels got, the storytelling of Shawn Michaels is finally getting the upper hand because he took a shortcut and then immediately gets cut off. So he keeps getting his ass kicked, which was the whole point of the story, that Undertaker wanted to get his hands on him. And then the only way Michaels win is because, you know, Kane's debut, and that was a big deal, and ripping off the cage and the idea of ripping off the Hell in a Cell door and where that came from Smoky Mountain Wrestling idea that Jim Cornette had, like all these little nuances. And then you watch it back and you're like, Jesus Christ, this match is, in my opinion, perfect. It's a perfect match.
In the way they debuted the cage and everything
Mm-hmm.
for like that match, like there's so many little things about wrestling that people that are not in the circle like us of wrestling that we try to tell the outsiders about wrestling. I know how many people have you like tried to explain something about wrestling to a person that doesn't watch wrestling on Zoo 100 and they look at you like
You know, I
awkward
say it all the
TikTok
time.
face.
Wrestling is cool and wrestling is pop culture. Anyone that thinks otherwise is an idiot. And that's why, like, one of the big things that I did coming to Z100 is I wanted to amplify that as much as I could. I wanted people to know, you know, wrestling is mainstream. You don't go to wrestling shows at Madison Square Garden or UBS Arena or MetLife Stadium if it's Mania something. You don't go to those shows and see nothing but men who are out of shape and unkempt. You see families now. You see families because that's what they're catering to. Both companies, by the way. And you're seeing family, 3, 4, 5 people families. Yeah, you're seeing like when I'm going to SmackDown in another 2 weeks or whatever at Madison Square Garden, and I'm bringing 3 of my guy friends. We're all in our 30s. We all grew up on the Attitude Era, and it's just a night out for us, really, and we treat it like a night out. But the last time we went to a show, the 4 of us, there was a family of 4 in front of us with 2 little kids, and we were getting energy from those 2 little kids because they were going crazy. They're cheering, they're yelling, and then we're being drunken idiots. Like, yeah, we're gonna cheer with you or boo with you, and like the kids were so excited about it. So it became like fun, even more fun for us, not only because of what was happening in the ring, but the interaction we were having with these little kids, because you could tell that they were like, wow, the grown-ups are like going along with us. We're so cool. Little things like that.
Mm. So, out of like the wrestlers you've interviewed so far, like which wrestler would you say would be like your favorite interview you've done?
Um, so there's going to be 2 different answers, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
My favorite interview so far was Ricky Starks. We went about like 30, 40 minutes. Like, we went long. Which is like relatively unheard of unless it's like a big time podcast or a big time. Like, the vibe was good, the energy was great. He was opening up about mental health. He was opening up about his neck injury and how that affected his mental health. Like, he got really deep, and he wasn't really backing out of my questions. He was going with it. And you could, as you're interviewing people, you kind of feel like, okay, I could go a little deeper. Okay, a little deeper. Okay, a little deeper. And we were having such a good conversation. And it was just real. It was just, I know enough about wrestling and enough about performers where I don't feel like I need to prep and set up all these questions. So for anybody who watches this that wants to have a podcast, the worst thing you could do is set up questions and rely on those questions. Because what ends up happening is that you have your questions, right? And I ask you a question, Joe, and as you're answering, I just kind of do one of these and I completely shut you out. Excuse me.
Mm.
I completely shut you out because I'm looking at the questions and I'm trying to figure out what question I didn't ask or what question I should ask next, not realizing that you could be giving me gold if I just ask a follow-up question. It's the best interviews are simple conversations. It's not the stuff that you're just kind of screwing off looking at the questions that you have set up over here. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what we do here on Dudes at Ringside. Like I treat this podcast as I tell the guests, and this is why they open up even harder for me, even like brighter for me, wider for me. I treat these interviews like we're at the bar eating wings and watching Raw or SmackDown on TV. And I don't treat it like we're sitting in the locker room after a Yankee win or Yankee loss with a microphone in the person's face. Like, so why did you run off? Like, make example, a poor IKF. So why did you jump off of second base after that stolen base today? And he's like, uh, I don't know. Why'd you do it? I don't know. I'm like, I don't do that to the person. I don't want to make them sound stupid. But there's a person I really, really think you should definitely try to interview. She's in AEW and she's getting doing fire stuff. This is my suggestion to you, Billy Starks.
Yes, she just graduated high school. I think
Doll.
I think it would make for a great subject. She's someone that I would like to interview. I recently interviewed Soraya. she jumped into like my top 3 interviews of all time. Because Soraya and I, it's just like a natural, we just clicked for some reason. Where again, she gets it. So the questions I were asking, she was going along with it. There was good energy. There was good vibes. So Soraya was good. So to go back to your question from earlier, I would say Ricky Starks, because it was just an organic conversation that I got so much love for. And then my other favorite, probably Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, I saw that when I was looking at the clip from your Instagram page. I was like, cool, Cody.
Cody, because we went viral for two different things. We ended up going viral, which like anytime you go viral, fuck it, that's a great thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I mean, CM Punk and I had a conversation when he got to AEW. We did an interview that was really well done. Seth Rollins did one with me around Christmas time, so about a year and a half ago. That was really well done, and that also went viral. And the CM Punk one went viral as well because he volunteered information. I didn't even ask him anything. He kind of was asked me. He's like, "What would I do if I went to WWE?" And I was just like, "Oh, if I were to be booked for the Royal Rumble or whatever, go back to the WWE." Like, and that ended up going viral. Seth Rollins, I asked him, because there was a point. I don't care how big of a Seth Rollins fan you are, and I am. There was a point towards the end of 2021. Leading into his Royal Rumble match with Roman Reigns, where like his character was like, what is his character? Like, are you a heel? Are you a baby face? Are you this weird Joker? So go all in on the Joker. Like it was just 3-4 months of like, I don't know what this, and I asked him, I said, can you explain your character to me? And he did, and he kind of went into detail on it or whatever. And then that clip ended up going viral. And it was cool because after that went viral, immediately the character went way more into like a Joker direction and stuff like that, which I'm not going to sit here and say the story going viral because of me is the reason why. No, I just think that people probably picked up on it and were like, oh, well, now he's got to go all in on it. Like the story's getting picked up by Bleacher Report and WWE on Fox and BT Sports, excuse me. So at that point, it's almost like, all right, well, you mentioned the character. Now you got to really go in if people are confused by it because they don't understand what it is. You know what I'm saying? So that was a good one. That was a good one as well.
Awesome. So do you so what do you think about the whole bloodline storyline? I'm absolutely like my mind is every time something happens with that storyline, my mind's like, oh my god.
I think we've officially passed Hogan Savage as the greatest long-term storyline of all time, the greatest intentional long-term storytelling of all time. There was a time, I ain't gonna lie, there was a time where I was like, all right, this has kind of run its course. And there was like a 2-3 week span where I was like, yeah, I think the wheels have fallen off this bloodline thing. And then it just got ramped right back up and they got it back on the rails. And, we're going into the, what are they dubbing it as? What's the promotion? The Bloodline Civil War.
Yeah, now it's the Civil War.
Yeah, which is, hey, it's all about marketing, bro. It's all about promotion, right? So they're going hard with it. I think that it's going to be great. I think, it's so easy to do something like this because you could have a screwy finish that leads to a SummerSlam rematch with maybe a stipulation. And either debut a new character that's part of the bloodline or have somebody join. And then you could go into the fall with a, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso match again, and then a Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso match, and then set it up for Solo to start kind of going into that Batista Triple H Evolution type of storyline leading into the Royal Rumble. And now that you have the 2 world titles, Solo could win the Rumble. And literally, to me, what makes wrestling great is you could literally do the exact same story 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, and it's still new to somebody. And if someone sits there and goes, well, they did that back in 2005 with WrestleMania 21, it's like, yeah, by the time that happens, it's literally almost been 20 years. So like, who cares if they do it well? It's well done. That's one thing I will say. Wrestling fans annoy me a lot of times because they'll sit there and be like, oh, they did that in 98. Like, yeah, bro, 1998 was 25 years ago. Like, things are
Yep.
cyclical. Things happen for a reason. Music gets sampled. Things get remixed. You know how many times they tried redoing things and it just didn't fucking work out because it was
Yeah.
terrible,
Yeah.
you know?
It's hilarious. Like I have these people that you try to talk to online or when you go to a wrestling show and then they get mad at you because I grew up in the golden era. I'm 30, I'm 40. So I went to the garden so many times as a kid and I seen a lot of house shows with Hogan and well, I never got a chance to see Warrior live, but I would always see Hogan. I seen sometimes see the Rockers, Warlord, Piper, DiBiase, Sherry coming out with DiBiase and stuff like that. Like, did you imagine back in those days it would be so big professional wrestling as it was back in the 90s and stuff like that, the way it was?
Everything is cyclical and there's always a boom period for everything. And wrestling is too, at its core, wrestling is literally good versus evil conquering a mountain. That's what it's all. That's what it's always been since the beginning of time. So that as long as it stays on course like that, which there's no reason why it wouldn't be, wrestling will always hit a boom period and go further. The one thing that I cannot stand about like internet wrestling fans nowadays, they rely so much on ratings, not realizing that we are consuming content in ways that have never been done before. We are no longer sitting in front of our TV at 9:05 or 8:57. There was at one point where Raw started at 8:57. We're no longer sitting there in front of our TV at 8:57 watching Raw, and then during a commercial break you go pee, you hear it come back and you run and or yell at your sibling to hire the TV, you know what I'm saying, raise the volume so that you can hear it as you're running back from the bathroom because
Yeah.
you don't want to miss a second. There's none of that anymore. I have Hulu. I record everything. And then I just get home and I watch it. I'm in studio, so I'll have Raw tonight. I had SmackDown on and I had it on mute. It's in the studio, it's in the background. I'm doing my show, I'm picking up calls, and I'm like watching. I'm not hearing the commentary. I'm just staying up to date with what's happening. I'll go home, maybe watch it, maybe not. If I feel like it wasn't a good enough show to watch, then I won't watch it. Or like there's so many of my friends that'll text me and it'll be like, yo, I saw that interview or that promo or that match because they found it on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So the way we're consuming it is so different nowadays. If anything, it is easier as a product to get out there when you're of that big type of company and have the reach that WWE does, specifically WWE. You don't need people to sit there. You're not going to have 8, 9, 10 million people watching your product anymore. All they care about is rankings. People put so much emphasis that know nothing about TV and nothing about rating systems. They put so much emphasis on the number. Like, oh my God, Dynamite can't even break 1 million. And it's like the 1849 demographic is the most important. People 1849, they're number 1 on the night or they're number 3. Okay, why are they number 3? Well, NBA playoffs was number 1 and 2. Then all right, fine. The channels love that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I could go on forever about my frustrations with internet wrestling fans.
They frustrate me sometimes, man. I can't. I'm just like I have people that like get mad at me because of this show. They're like, "Oh, you this," because I interviewed she's on ROH. She did a few days ago. She did an episode, Notorious Mimi. I interviewed her at a show, and that episode got up to like 300 and something views. And my other ones, oh, you one episode's at 46 views. I'm like, that's where the internet is. People see a name and they're like, I don't know that name. I'll skip that episode. I'll skip that episode. Oh, who's Josh Martinez? It says Z100. Maybe I'll watch it. But yeah. So
Well, even with my interviews, like I don't get a lot of views on YouTube, but I get picked up by like all the main wrestling communication, you know, WrestleZone, Wrestling, Fightful. They'll always cover my stories. And what people will do is they'll read it, but they never click the link. So they miss out on the full 22-minute interview with Paul Heyman, Solo Sokoa. I was Hook's first radio interview, for example. I've interviewed so many big stars, and people just see the headline and then they'll just talk about the headline. They don't even go into listening to the interview. I have so many of my friends and family members and people that will listen to the full interview and come away thinking like, wow, I really like that person. I had somebody DM me the other day and was like, hey, your Zelina Vega interview was actually really cool. I liked it a lot. I like her now too. LOL. And I was like, it's amazing what you can do when you actually stop down and you look at the person as the person rather than them as a performer. You know, Solo Sokoa was a good example. We did an interview. He was in his car and we did it through Zoom. He was in his car. It was just two dudes that are around the same age, kicking it, talking about wrestling and other things that went on. Now, what I started doing is clipping a lot of these interviews that I have and posting it on TikTok. And now I'm getting, 50, 100,000, 200,000 views on a lot of these videos because it's how people are consuming content nowadays. Quick, straight to the point.
Yeah. So, I want my closer for this interview with you, Josh. If there was a kid that wanted to get into radio and he just didn't know where to go, what kind of advice would you give them?
Don't get into it. I'm poor. I'm kidding. No, I think like anything else, bro, getting in by any means necessary, right? So getting in, I always tell people just get in the building. Get in the building, whether you're a part-time street team person on the promotions team or you're part-time sales assistant, like just get in the building somehow, you know what I'm saying? And then just start networking. And yeah, it's gonna suck to or get a full-time job, right? Like there's a woman here who's an aspiring actress and she works full-time in like the corporate division, but she's interested in radio. So I tell her, I'm like, yo, I'm on air live every weeknight, 6 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. I'm on air every weeknight on Z100. I'm gonna be here. Just come into the studio, hang out, take mental notes, learn by doing. Ask me 1,000,000,001 questions. If you really want to do it, if you really want to be in the industry, you will do whatever you can. You have an opportunity to sit in, and I'm not trying to like blow myself up because again, it's not about me. It's about the Yankees. It's not about the player. It's about the team. And this team is an iconic freaking team. So why not have the chance to sit in studio and just learn once or twice a week and then start putting things together to figure out if you want it or not. Maybe you don't want it, right? Maybe you sit there and go, damn, I really wanted to do radio. This is too tough. Or I don't feel comfortable enough to do it. Or I don't think I'm good enough, which I think is garbage. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, get in the building and network your ass off. That's the biggest thing, dude.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh, for taking this opportunity to come on my podcast. And as I said before I started recording, I am a since my family we listen to Z100. We're Z100, even though I live in PA now. I still bang the drum of every time I go to work. Oh man, Z100 is my boys. Z100 is my homies. I even did the Z100. Like it was like every morning I wake up to hear the old school Elvis Duran bump 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 dum. It's I get out of bed. There's no more napping to wake up every morning hearing that. So thank you so much, Josh. Tell everybody for Z100. Joe Panther III sends his love. Give Elvis a big pound. Say Joe, if it wasn't for you, Joe Panther III would never be banging on the drum, doing his thing with the podcast world. He's representing with his red glasses, showing his love. I'm Joe Panther III. Your turn.
My name is Josh Martinez.
And we will catch you in the next one. Good night. Have a good day, everybody.